Hope you're having a great start to your work week. Thanks for tuning in to the American Digital Network. I'm Haley Outen. It's time to dive into some men's hoops, and we now welcome in our basketball analyst, Mike O'Donnell, via Skype. Hey, Mike, how's it going down in Orlando?
Warm, sunny, 80 degrees. It's fantastic, Haley. How you doing up north?
Yeah. It's the same up here, so don't worry about us. Well, let's talk some men's hoops. Looking back to last week, there were some really important games, starting off with Tulsa and Tulane. Teams are fighting for seeding in the conference tournament. Why was the Golden Hurricanes' win over the Green Wave a significant one?
Well, they just solidified themselves as the fourth place team in the American Conference. Not a lot of people talking about Tulsa, but Coach Frank Haith doing a tremendous job with the Golden Hurricane, playing great basketball in the last couple of weeks. That was a big win for Tulsa. They got the win over Tulane in an overtime thriller. That was a game that featured 54 fouls, 2 technicals, and 12 ties. I mean, who says there's no drama in college hoops? Tulane was actually without starters Melvin Frazier and steady point guard Ray Onaembo, and they still managed to fight their way to a 12-point lead midway through the second half. The Green Wave even had to use 2 walk-ons in the last 90 seconds of overtime because they just ran out of bodies. But balanced scoring and depth was the key to Tulsa's comeback victory. 4 Golden Hurricanes had at least 17 points, with Junior Itu and Corey Henderson Jr. leading the way with 19. Major props to the always reliable Sterling Tapling, who banked in a big-time shot to give Tulsa the lead with 8 seconds left. I mean, don't look now, but Tulsa's in sole possession of 4th place. I mean, this is a team that was picked to finish 8th in the preseason poll, and they are playing some of the best basketball in the American Conference currently, and it's at the right time, too, late in conference play.
Sitting in a tie in second place in the conference standings are the Houston Cougars. They came up with a big in-state win last week over SMU. Mike, what are you learning about the Cougars at this point in the season?
Well, they're not just winning games because they're great offensively. They're winning games because they're great defensively as well. And last year, when their offense was struggling, their defense couldn't quite win them games. This year, it's a lot different story. They are a sound, gritty, tough, physical defensive team. And that was a great win over SMU. Now, SMU really misses Shake Milton. I mean, he's been out with a hand injury for the last few games, because when he's in the lineup, I really feel that they are an at-large bid candidate for the NCAA tournament. But the Cougars' win over the Mustangs really bolsters their NCAA tournament status. That win gave them 3 Quadrant 1 wins and 3 Quadrant 2 wins. That's now, in terms of when I'm talking about quadrants, that's part of a new 4-tier system that the NCAA Selection Committee is using in their process, and we'll talk about more as we get closer to the conference tournament. But it was a really, really gritty win. It certainly wasn't a pretty win for Houston. Rob Gray Jr. missed his first 8 shots, but he got hot late, scoring all 15 points in the second half. Stout defense got the job done. SMU missed their last 7 shots and went without a field goal in the final 6 minutes and 50 seconds. Houston is winners of 4 out of the last 5 games and looking like a legit at-large team. And a huge congrats to Rob Gray Jr., who just became the American Conference all-time leading scorer. He is the best scorer in the country that you don't know enough about. I love his game. Major congratulations, and well-deserved to Rob Gray Jr.
The team that everyone is chasing in the conference standings is Cincinnati, undefeated in conference play and only 2 losses on the year. What is the big picture looking like for the Bearcats?
Well, according to the AP voters, they're the 5th best team in the country. They just released a poll, and the Cincinnati Bearcats are 5th. I mean, this is a very, very good Cincinnati Bearcats team. For more than just being a tough and physical defensive team, as they've been known in the last 3 or 4 years. This year, they are absolutely blowing teams out, and they are so efficient on the offensive end. So, top 5 in the AP poll. They have RPI of 6. Defensively, they are the 2nd leading scoring defense team in the nation, holding teams to 56 points a game. They're 2nd in field goal percentage defense. Okay, we got the defensive stats out of the way. Now, this year's team, they can fill it up on the offensive end. They are #1 in scoring margin in the nation. They're winning by an average of 20 points a game, and they're 6th in rebounding margin, almost 9 rebounds per game more than their opponent. A lot of critics will say, well, they have no quote-unquote marquee wins, but they have 11 Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 2 wins. That is a huge chunk of quality wins for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Their only losses this year are to Xavier, who will be a #1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and to the Florida Gators, who's been in and out of the top 25, and they will most likely be an NCAA tournament team as well. As of now, most people think that they're going to be a 2 or a 3 seed in the NCAA tournament, which is why this week is so important for the Bearcats. They have Houston and Wichita State opportunities to rack up even more RPI points, even more Quadrant 1 victories. A win over Wichita State would be massive to solidify maybe that 2 or 3 seed in the NCAA tournament for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Mike, each week we've been taking a look at potential Player of the Year candidates. Let's switch it up a little bit and focus on some of the youth in this league. Who are 2 players that you like that we could be talking about come the end of the season as the Rookie of the Year in the American?
Yeah, 2 great guards in the American Conference this year that really caught my eye. The first is your alma mater, Haley, East Carolina, and Sean Williams. He has been outstanding in conference play. I love his game, and here's why. He's been Rookie of the Week 3 times this year. He is a scoring point guard, almost 11 points per game on the season. In the last 4 games in conference play, he's had 30 points, 15, 14, and 15. He is tearing it up in conference play. He is a bouncy athlete who was actually highly recruited coming out of high school. He had offers from TCU and Arizona State. Williams can beat you off the dribble, and he has a real knack for getting hot in the second half. When his 3-point shot improves, he could end up being one of the most lethal scorers in the American Conference. I am expecting big things for Sean Williams in East Carolina. The second player that I love this year is Cesar DeJesus out of UCF. Down in Orlando, DeJesus has had to fill in for the injured B.J. Taylor for most of the season, and he is an athletic, shifty, scoring point guard. What I love about DeJesus' games is that he's one of the toughest shot makers in the American Conference, period. His ability to finish around the rim is really special. He has the athleticism, the speed, and the playmaking ability to be one of the best point guards in the conference by his junior and senior year. He averages about 9 points a game, 2 assists per game on the season. And when some of those freshman turnovers go down and that 3-point percentage goes up, he is going to be a remarkable player for the UCF Knights in the next couple years. In my opinion, DeJesus has been 3 times Rookie of the Week, and I think that he is going to be one of the best point guards in the American Conference in the next couple years.
I see what you're doing here. A little alma mater versus alma mater, UCF versus ECU.
Right. Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on. Let's talk about some games to watch this week. I think we're in store for some good ones. Which ones do you have circled on your calendar?
Oh, man, huge games this week. This might be the biggest week in American Conference basketball all season. And the first game I look to is Thursday, is Houston versus Cincinnati. That is a monster game with tons of implications, not just within the conference, but also nationally as well. That said, the Bearcats travel to Houston, and you have to remember, you go back a few weeks ago, and the Cougars had an early lead versus Cincinnati. They almost pulled off the upset in that first matchup, ended up losing by 10. You better believe that Cincinnati is going to remember that, but this is a great opportunity for 2 reasons. Houston has the ability to pick up a massive marquee win and a Quadrant 1 win on their resume. And Cincinnati has an opportunity to win on the road. They need to continue winning these games to prove that they belong in that 2 or 3 seed for the NCAA tournament conversation. Another game I like to look at, Thursday, Temple at Wichita State. Oh man, this is going to be a good one. The Owls versus the Shockers. Temple won in overtime back on February 1st. The Owls need a win because they are the definition of a bubble team. This would be a huge, not just road win, but a quadrant 1 win for Temple. And the Shockers cannot afford to lose games at home. This is another opportunity for them to continue to stay in the top 25 for the AP and most other polls. And then on Sunday, 4 p.m. ESPN, a massive showdown. Wichita State plays at Cincinnati. This is huge. The first of 2 meetings versus the best defensive teams in the country. These 2 teams can defend, they can score, and this has the feeling for major implications nationally, depending on what happens Sunday afternoon. I can't wait for that game. I'll be watching.
A big week coming up in conference play. Mike, as always, thanks for taking time to join us here in the studio.
Great to be here. Another week of great games in the American Conference.
All right, well, speaking of the conference tournament, we're officially less than a month away, so we want to get you guys involved as we prepare to head down to Orlando. We want to help you make that trip, so here's what you can do. On Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, head to our Facebook page where we're going to be giving away tickets live. All you have to do is be the first one to get our basketball trivia questions correct. There's going to be 10 pairs of tickets up for grabs to attend each game of the tournament. We hope to see you there. Have a great rest of your week, everybody.